Hi guys, Howard Croston, welcome back again. Tonight I'm going to do a quick fly tying video for you. Now, what I'm going to say at the start of this is a fly that was developed by a really good friend of mine, somebody I still fish with a lot even today, and that's Davy Parker out of the England team. Now, me and Davy have been friends for many years, and we've fished a lot of competitions together, Europeans, Worlds, all those kind of things. Now, there's one particular fly that Davy is probably best known for, and that is a fly called the Retirer. Now, I was actually with Davy in Slovenia in the European Championships when he developed the fly originally, and I've used it ever since that competition. Now, I was talking to him just the other day about the fly, funnily enough, because we're getting to the time of year when we use it quite a lot in the spring, because it's a very good March brown imitation. As well as a lot of other things throughout the course of the year. And we got on the subject of all of the videos that have been produced by people purporting to be the Retirer. So if you look, you can find a lot of videos online. Unfortunately, with an odd exception, most of them get the fly completely wrong. Now, that's fine, you know, there's plenty of room for variations of pattern, and nobody's really too bothered about that. But if you tie a fly and you attribute a name to it of a very successful pattern, and then you miss out all of the key attributes that make that fly so successful in the first place, it's just inaccurate, and it's just wrong, and it's not really fair, to be honest. So I said to Davey that I would make this video showing the correct way to tie it with the correct materials, and explain a little bit about why he believes and the rest of us believe that it's such a successful fly. Now, a little bit of the background. So in Slovenia, we were fishing the European Championships, and we were fishing a river called the Jadritska, and we were practicing, and there was a run that had a lot of rising fish in it, and they were quite tough to catch. Few people had a go, not really much success. So Davey, being quite stubborn like he is, he sat on top of the fish and kept working at them until he managed to get them to eat. And the only fly he could make them eat was a big sort of parachute fly with a trailing shuck they used on the Tweed quite a lot. But he had to butcher it quite heavily with his scissors at the side of the river to get them to accept it. That night, when we went back to the digs, he modified the fly, he changed a couple of the ingredients, and he simplified the dressing of it to some degree. We went out the day after, he got in a big hatch situation, and he smashed it to pieces. He caught loads of fish out of a different river. I think it was the Savabehinka on the second day. So from that point on, that fly started to get more and more water time. Everywhere we fished, we started to use it, and more people in the England circuit started to use it. And eventually it got to the point where, for a lot of us, it retired all of the big dry flies we had in our competition boxes, both as a searching pattern and as, at times, a duo fly. And it really is a universal soldier of a pattern. Now, it does share a lot of common materials and tying styles with some other really well-known patterns. Flies like the X-Caddis. That's a US pattern that's got a shuck tail and a similar body construction and a similar wing construction. But the proportions are different, and there are a few things that are a little bit different about the dressing. And for me, and I've fished them both quite a lot, Davy's original dressing, or Davy's version, is the single most successful one out of the lot for me, and that's how I tie it. So I'm going to tie the fly, I'm going to tie the Retirer for you. I hope you enjoy it. It really is a superb bit of kit. It's a fantastic fly, especially when you tie it the right way, and that's what this is going to be. Hope you enjoy it. Thanks a lot. Hi guys, here we go. So this is how you tie the original Retirer. Just a couple of quick things about the fly. It's a really superb searching pattern. When the fish aren't actively rising, you can fish it blind and it'll pull them up off the bottom. It's a really good fly to knock fish off when they're selectively feeding. So for argument's sake, if they're eating let's say a relatively small upwing like a blue-winged olive, and you find it tricky to get them to accept your fly, drifting this through them can basically force a reaction take off them, and they'll often eat it like that. It's a fantastic pattern when there's caddis on the water, and it's a really, really good early season fly when the fish are taking big upwings like March Browns. You can vary the colour scheme if you want to. I tie them sometimes with a slightly darker overall colour scheme, and occasionally I'll put a yellow thread rib through it. But the one thing that doesn't change really is the proportion and all of the ingredients in the fly. Things like the shuck, the body, and the wing construction all remain the same. That is what makes it a retirer. If you miss the shuck out as an example, you have not tied a retirer, and you know it doesn't deserve to have that name applied to it. So this is how you tie it. The hook is, this one is a size 12 H130BL, a Hannock, so quite a light wire hook. The original retirer was quite a big fly. You can vary the size if you want, but it really does seem to do best service when it's tied big. So size 12, olive thread on behind the eye, run straight down, just level with the bend, get rid of the tag end. Now, single most important aspect of a retirer is the shuck tail. The shuck is going to be a little bit of cream or white siliconized polypropylene yarn, probably about half to a quarter of a ply, dependent on what material you're using. This is Aero Wing, so I've taken it down to about a quarter ply. I am going to taper it a little bit by pulling a few of the fibres out and then cord it. And I've created a shuck there. Like I said before, no shuck, not a retirer. That goes on, I want it probably slightly just over the overall shank length, catching in on top, pinch and loop. A couple of turns will do it. Nice and tight. Tag end comes off. Now, the body needs to be a relatively light coloured fur. This is natural hare's fur with a little bit of chopped synthetic in it. So it's a light hare's ear that has a little bit of synthetic in. In this case, it's Zelon. I'm just going to noodle that on to the body. Now, as this is a fly that originated in competition circles, it does not need to be a complicated tie. You don't need dubbing spinners or dubbing clips or anything like that. If you're just tying for the sake of tying, that's great. Do that, makes a super neat fly. These flies were tied to be fast, efficient, and durable, basically. So that there's no need for all of those other processes to achieve the end result, which is to catch more fish. So, knock that on as the body. Probably just a fraction short there. That's enough. Now, first thing, and again something a lot of people have got wrong in the videos I've seen, they've tied the wing wrong. First thing that goes in is a little bit of short and fine coastal deer hair, just natural. The original, and to be honest, any of the variations we tied don't use dyed deer hair, and they don't use elk hair. Again, that's not a retirer. So there's probably about 15 to 20 tips there. Line them up against the hook shank. I just want them slightly over long. I just want them slightly, again, longer than the shank. This is a big profiled fly. Transfer hands, take the tag ends off. That is the best way to work with deer hair when you are making anything like this, nice and neat. Tie them in, a couple of turns through the cut ends. There we go, that's the first stage of the winging. Second stage of the wing is we take a bit of medium grey, again, polypropylene yarn, siliconized polypropylene or Aero Wing, and this is off a slightly thicker hank of material. This is a different brand, so I'm just going to do about half of this. So the way to gauge it is that the mass wants to be about equal to the first part of the wing that you put in, the first part of the underwing. I'll just fret that a little bit. And that goes on at about the same length as the underwing. Tie that in. nice and tight. Get rid of the tag end. Now, that's an integral part of the fly. And the reason being, one of the good things about the retirer is it gives the illusion of bulk without being a very, very bulkily dressed fly. So there's a lot of it, but it's not a very densely packed fly with material. So it dries very, very quickly. And when a fish intercepts it, it crushes down to nothing because there isn't actually that much physical material in it. So it's a big mouthful and it produces a big silhouette that's very tempting to a fish. But it also it collapses and it dries very fast. The other good reason why you should have that in the dressing is it acts as a spacer, which helps that wing stay more open. And it's also a very, very good reservoir for the floatant that you use on it when you make the wing float, when you apply gink. This pattern do not soak the whole fly in one of the waterproofing solutions. Really, you should only apply the floatant to the wing. And the rest of it sits pretty low in the surface film and gives the impression of something that's trapped. Now, the overwing again, same thing, short, fine, coastal deer hair. Again, equal in mass to the underwing, so it's probably 15 to 20 fibres of that. Size it, trim it, tie it in. There we go. And the final little bit of the dressing. Apply a little bit of dubbing up at the head end. Darker squirrel, so a much darker shade than the body, just for a bit of counter shading. Doesn't have to be noodled on too tightly. Just tie it in to tidy the front end up a little bit. Knock in the whip finish. I normally do 2 for security's sake. That's it. And that is how you tie the original retirer. It's a big profiled fly. It's very, very light. It floats very well, but when that fish eats it, it crunches down to nothing. It's very, very soft. You can use it, like I said, as a dry fly, drifting it across the surface. You can use it as a duo fly. And in that instance, you might want to put a little bit of high-vis polyurn or something in up at the front end, but you need to put it in last. Put it in on top of the wing. Do not put it through the middle of the wing or anything like that. It's pretty pointless, to be honest, doing that. You don't really want the fish to see it if you can help it, and you just want it sitting up on the top so you can see it. So if you're going to use it as a duo fly, put the high-vis stuff in on top. That's where we tend to put it. All in all, that is probably one of the most productive dry flies in certainly my fly box and in a lot of the guys' fly boxes I fish with. And it's certainly one of Davy's top flies because he uses it all the time. So that's how you tie the retirer. I hope you enjoyed it and I hope you find it of use. Thanks a lot, guys, and I'll speak to you again.